2, I have a lot of opinions. I'm recording this episode pretty late, so I apologize if this seems like some low-effort content, because it is low-effort content, and low-effort content is what I need right now. I'll try to get back to some more thought-provoking discussion in Friday's video, but for now, here are 5 of my favorite anime, and 5 anime that I liked more than I expected to. I'm going to start with anime that I liked more than I expected to. So first, we have from Eiichiro Oda, one of the longest anime ever, we have One Piece. My girlfriend got me to start watching One Piece because it's her favorite anime. It took me so long to get into it. It took me so long to decide to watch it finally because it's so long. And from the outside, it seems like, there's no way that you can watch all this. There's no way that you can catch up to it, so why even bother? Why watch it? But as long as you can get past the 90s, early 2000s era where it's really hokey and kind of fun, but not incredibly good. Once you get past that, it gets into some really, really good, really interesting story arcs. And the characters are fun. The fight scenes are fun. The gags are fun. It's just all around a pretty good anime. And I didn't expect to like it as much as I do. Next up, we have the great Ouran High School Host Club. I started watching this at the recommendation of a friend of mine, and it drew me in instantly because it's the most anime I think I've ever watched, with the flower petals all over the place, and it's a much more heartfelt and interesting anime than it looks like it is on the surface, especially once you get to the very end of it. And it's short, it's only 20-some episodes. It's a much more interesting anime than I think it looks like on the surface. And the characters are much deeper and more fun than you expect them to be. Next up, we have a couple of movies, which I decided to put on honorable mention, even though I think both of them are fantastic. I didn't want to put them in the top 5 series because they're movies, obviously. The first is Afro Samurai with Samuel L. Jackson. It's really, really fun. It's really weirdly stylized, but it's really cool. It's a lot like, say, Samurai Champloo with the kind of the hip-hop anime vibe, and it's really, really good. I would highly recommend it. The next is, of course, Akira. You can't talk about anime movies without talking about Akira. Just the technical marvel of hand-drawing some of the scenes in Akira, all of them, honestly, and even, the background work, it's all just gorgeous. And watching it and realizing that it's all hand-drawn is incredible. And then, of course, the movie itself is just good. It's just a good movie. But more than a good movie, it's absolutely a technical masterpiece. And the final series came out recently. We have Food Wars, Shokugeki no Soma. Yes, the cooking anime. I went into it knowing it's a cooking anime and there's fan service. And the fan service doesn't die down, but it gets a little less ridiculous. But as an aspiring chef myself, it was fun to watch. But even before I decided I wanted to start cooking, it's just so ridiculous, and the characters are so likable that it really draws you in and it keeps you watching. So those were anime and a couple of anime movies that I really liked that I didn't necessarily expect to. So now we move on to my top 5 favorite anime. These aren't in any particular order. I'm excluding some anime that I really like but haven't finished yet. For instance, ROD, the TV, I'd really like to put on here, but I haven't finished it yet. There are some other anime that I expect I'll like but haven't started yet because I don't have time, like Haruhi Suzumiya, for instance. So, the first anime on my list, which I said no particular order, but I know that this is definitely my #1 favorite anime, is Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood by, God, I can't remember her name. I have a copy of this. I can't remember Hiromu Arakawa. By Hiromu Arakawa. Fullmetal Alchemist is a fantastic series, manga and anime, Brotherhood is. I think that one of the things that Arakawa brings to the table that doesn't get praised as much as it should is she brings a lot of shoujo inspiration into designing her characters. Because everybody knows what a shonen character looks like. You look at Naruto, you look at Bleach, you look at One Piece. Everybody knows what those characters look like, especially the female eye candy type characters. Arakawa doesn't have any of those in Fullmetal Alchemist. That isn't to say that she doesn't have some attractive women, but the way that they're designed, it's good. They're still good characters. Like there's one character that looks like a traditional eye candy character, and she's Lust, so it makes perfect sense. The characters are so good. It's such a good series. It keeps you on the edge of your seat the entire time. The main character is fantastic. This is an anime that I can recommend the dub of with Vic Mignogna, and I think J. Michael Tatum is in it, but it's just fantastic. Alright, the next anime on my list is a newer one. It's Mob Psycho 100 by One, which is a pseudonym. This is the same guy that created One Punch Man originally. It's just so good. Especially what drew me in originally was the art direction. It does a lot of the same things that One Punch Man did with like the really rough pencil line edges in some of the good scenes, or in some of the action scenes. But something that it does a lot more, that I think it got a lot more room to do, is play with color, play with things like squash and stretch and character design. It's so much fun, and the character is so cool. Not because he's made to be cool, Mob, the main character. Not because he's made to be cool, but because he reacts like a normal person would, and he reacts just like a generally good person. There's just something really charming about him, and he's fun to watch. He's almost made charismatic by his absolute lack of charisma. The fight sequences are just so cool. It's absolutely insane. I can highly recommend it. Mob Psycho 100. The next series that I have is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure by Hirohiko Araki. Now, this is only parts 1 and 2, Phantom Blood and Battle Tendency. I'm in the middle of Stardust Crusaders, and I don't like it nearly as much as I liked parts 1 and 2. Part 1 with Jonathan Joestar and Dio. I've talked at length about Dio in a previous video, but JoJo's Part 1 is just the ultimate condensed good versus evil story. Cool, fun characters. It's absolutely ridiculous, and I love it. Battle Tendency with Joseph Joestar is where it really comes into the adventure part of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, where they're going all over the world and they're trying to track down the Pillar Men and be a step ahead of them. And that one, which is much longer than part 1, is really cool to watch. Joseph and Caesar are just a fantastic duo of characters. Lisa's cool as hell. It's really a shame that they didn't get to be as long as some of the later series, because I think that Jonathan and Joseph deserve it more than Jotaro. I'm sorry. Jotaro's the worst. Next up, we have One Punch Man by One again. I mentioned it during Mob Psycho 100. The pencil lines, the really rough lines during some of the action sequences, the art direction is really good again in this one. It's a little more basic than Mob Psycho 100, but just because the source material just isn't as colorful. But regardless, it's so ridiculous. The main character being so incredibly powerful is so fun to watch, especially because he's not a tool about it. I tend to really like series where the main character starts out at the power level that he ends at. There's something to be said for, series like Dragon Ball and Bleach and One Piece where, the character meets the big bad, then the big bad beats them up, and then the character gets stronger, and then they beat the big bad. There's something to be said for that, and I don't think that type of story is inherently flawed, and I don't think it's bad, but there's something about watching an incredibly powerful character beat up bad guys that feel like they're from a traditional, like Dragon Ball or Bleach type story that's really, really fun, because they start monologuing and they yell about their powers, and then they just get punched and they die. and that's really fun to watch. And then around the midway point, like, it starts to get into some really interesting story stuff and interesting, like, superhero politics and stuff like that. And it's really, really cool. And all throughout, the action is phenomenal, and the characters are really, really cool. The powers are really simple, but really fun. What he likes to do is just take normal things like a swordsman or a martial artist or a dude with a bat and just crank it up to 1,000. Like, this dude can just kill things in one swing from a bat, or he can fight a giant demon with his martial arts skills, and it's just really, really cool to look at, and I really loved it. So finally, we have the purest fighting anime of all time, Yu Yu Hakusho. This, again, I'm going to give a disclaimer. I read the manga. I did not watch the anime. I know the anime just follows the manga, so it's fair enough. But I have to recommend the manga over the anime because the anime was made in the 90s, and it's just got that 90s anime look, and it carries itself like a 90s anime, so I don't think it does the manga as much justice as it could. But regardless, Yu Yu Hakusho is really cool. It's fighting. It's a fighting anime. Or a fighting manga, and I really, really loved that. Yusuke's cool. He's just a little shithead, and I love him. So I recommend that. So, I'm sorry that was a little rambly, just kind of low-effort content. I'll get back to better content in the future, hopefully on Friday. I'll see you on Friday. Think hard, think smart, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
I might throw a brick.
I want you to know that you said that right as the countdown to start recording started, like, stopped. Like, it was like, 3, 2, 1. I might throw a brick.
Can you keep that?